Mega Man 2 is undoubtedly one of the greatest games to ever come out on the NES, but it's certainly not without its flaws. In its time, it was most likely considered a masterpiece, but looking back at it from a more modern standpoint, there are issues that I just can't overlook. However, I'm not the only person to have noticed the several imperfections that Mega Man 2 carries throughout its adventure. 20 years after Mega Man 2 came out, Capcom themselves took a look back on their work and set out to make a more realized sequel to Mega Man 2 by creating Mega Man 9. Mega Man 9 was a groundbreaking game for its time, as it was one of the first retro revival games to come out in the late 2000s, spawning all sorts of other retro throwback titles to come out of the woodworks. But I feel that Mega Man 9 is really only given credit for starting this craze, and not for what an absolute masterpiece it is when it comes to game design. In my opinion, Mega Man 9 is perhaps the most well thought out platform game of all time. But to truly appreciate all that Mega Man 9 accomplishes, we must first take a look at its grandfather and inspiration, Mega Man 2. What makes a Mega Man game, and not, say, any other platformer on the NES? Well, since the very first game, Mega Man has been about taking on a large handful of Robot Masters, gaining their powers, and using them to aid you throughout the rest of your journey. A key point being the autonomy given to the player as to the order in which they choose to take on said Robot Masters. There's no correct sequence, and the player is instead allowed to experiment and find what route best suits their playstyle. This, along with tight controls, amazing music, and a damn tough challenge, are all what make up the core of what makes Mega Man what it is, and nowhere on the NES is this more realized than in Mega Man 2. However, from here on out, for the purposes of being able to differentiate between Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 2 at a glance, and because it's the version I grew up with, all footage of Mega Man 2 will be from the Genesis/Megadrive remake of the game, unless otherwise noted. As I said earlier, the main gimmick of any Mega Man game is the ability to choose your path through the game and defeat all the Robot Masters that stand in your way. The lineup for Mega Man 2 has some of the most iconic Robot Masters the series ever had, from Metal Man to Airman, and of course my boy, Woodman! Each of the Robot Masters has their own challenging stages with unique obstacles, set pieces, and enemies, and on top of that, each of these stages has its own unique theme, each one brilliantly composed with a catchy melody to keep the player continuing even after dying again and again on those especially tricky sections. Once you've made it to the end of any given stage, it's time to face off with the Robot Master. Throughout each of the fights, the same Robot Master battle theme plays, setting the mood for each fight and cluing the player into the gravity of the battle that's about to happen. While I personally don't think the Robot Master battle theme is on the same level as the stage themes, I really appreciate what it does thematically throughout the game. The fights themselves are easily the hardest parts of the first half of the game, if you don't know what you're doing. When a Robot Master is defeated, Mega Man can take on their power and use it throughout the rest of the game, so long as there is enough weapon energy. Finding out which Robot Masters are weak to which sub-weapons is half of the fun of any Mega Man game, and this holds true for Mega Man 2 as well. But it's not always one weapon that will be effective against a certain Robot Master. Many of the Robot Masters have soft and hard weaknesses that a clever player can use to switch up their routing as they go through the game. For example, I'm pretty sure that most people use Heatman's weapon against Woodman since it's his hard weakness, but I personally have always used Airman's weapon on Woodman because I find it easier to hit with, it's more spammable, and it does a significant amount of damage. Once all 8 Robot Masters have been taken out, the real challenge begins. The Wily levels. This is where Mega Man 2 gets serious. When we were going through the Robot Masters, we would get a password after defeating each one, but Wily's Castle is a non-stop marathon of 4 of the toughest levels in the game, with no passwords. I think that this can present an interesting conundrum, but I'll get to that a little later. Each stage is tougher than the last, and those end bosses are some of the most difficult of any Mega Man game. Plus, After making it through the final stage, you're in for a rematch against all 8 Robot Masters one last time. It's a brutal gauntlet that leads up to the final confrontation with Wily, which is one of the most difficult battles of the entire game. But once he's defeated, Wily's got one last trick up his sleeve. A secret final level reveals itself, and we go on to take down Wily one last time. I'd like to point out here that, just like in the original Castlevania, the route that gets drawn on Wily's castle also matches the floor plan of each level, so the player will get a rough idea of what to expect from each level before they even enter. The final level is perhaps my favorite part of all of Mega Man 2. Throughout the entire game, we've been treated to incredible track after incredible track, but in this hidden layer, we hear only the sound of Mega Man and small acid drops that fall down from the ceiling on the way to our final battle with Wily. And upon finally getting to Dr. Wily, we find that he transforms into some horrifying alien monster, and we have to take him out once and for all. Wily's body does a ton of damage if you touch him, and the only weapon to do damage is the bubble lead, which has an incredibly short range. The fight has so much tension due to both the eerie silence of the preceding room and because of how high the stakes are with this final battle, each bubble lead being vitally important to defeating Wily, and the danger of getting so close to him making things all the more challenging. God, it's an incredible fight. But it also isn't. I think this final fight with Wily perfectly encapsulates everything that Mega Man 2 does right, as well as everything it does wrong. When it comes to presentation and general gameplay, Mega Man 2 as a whole, just as with the final battle with Wily, is a masterpiece in 8-bit game design and programming. But when you take a step back, the holes in the stitching start to show through. Only being able to use the bubble lead to take out Wily is an incredible idea on paper. Forcing the player to get in close to deal damage while the body of Wily deals a lot of damage to the player, but it's only great if you win. If you lose, especially if you lose after using up a lot of your bubble lead, there's literally no way to win without purposefully getting a game over. Hitting Wily with the Mega Buster fully heals him. On top of that, as cinematic and as incredible as the cave section is, it becomes annoying to have to walk through it, taking extra caution to avoid the acid that drops from the ceiling every time you want to have a rematch. If you love Mega Man 2 and have been playing it for a long time, you can no doubt beat it on your first try and appreciate the brilliant artistry that went into creating the atmosphere and tension of this fight. But looking at it from a gameplay perspective, it misses the mark for first-time players, proving to be more of an annoyance than anything else. Anytime you have to purposefully game over just to get another shot at the boss just isn't good game design. This is what I like to call the continues conundrum, but again, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. More generally, this type of issue is what my friends and I refer to as Mega Man 2 bullshit. I talked about this idea before in my review of G. Darius. And the reason we call it that is because it's all over the place in Mega Man 2. That final boss of Wily Stage 3 is particularly offensive, as if you use just even 2 crash bombs trying to take it out and lose, you have no choice but to get a game over and play through the entire level again, since it takes up almost all of your crash energy just to defeat it, with no other alternatives available. Other examples include the dragon fight, where it's way too easy to fall into the pit of nothingness for an instant death, especially in the NES version, the disappearing block puzzle in Heatman stage, and I was ready to say that the giant death lasers in Quickman stage weren't such a big issue, since when I played it this time, I only had a little trouble with it, but I went back and played the PlayStation port of the NES version and found the timing to be way more strict than on the Genesis remake, to the point where it felt like I needed computer-like precision to get through it, even using the flash stopper. In fact, I gave up trying to beat that version out of frustration. You can feel free to write these complaints off as just how games were back then, but I think that's a lazy excuse. Sure, games were like that back then, but these are far from the only issues that Mega Man 2 has. The core of what makes a Mega Man game is the ability to swap out different sub-weapons on the fly. But in Mega Man 2, you almost never need to do this, and you all know why. The Metal Blade is easily the most powerful weapon in the whole game, and as soon as you get it, you will never use anything else. Mega Man 2 suffers from Castlevania 4 syndrome, or perhaps Castlevania 4 suffers from Mega Man 2 syndrome. What I mean is, just like with Castlevania 4's whip, the Metal Blade totally changes the way you play the game. Mega Man 2 stops being a game about using a diverse set of weapons to cleverly solve problems thrown at you, and quickly devolves into using the Metal Blade for every issue you have. Okay, so there are a couple of instances where I used Airman's weapon or the Leaf Shield, but the truth of the matter is, outside of the Robot Master fights, the only weapon that's worth a damn is the Metal Blade, and it leaves the game feeling stale. But I do think Mega Man 2 does handle this better than Castlevania 4. Levels feel like they were at least designed with the abilities of the Metal Blade in mind, and maybe the designers really wanted to make a game with a fun 8-way shot. And if that was their goal, well, they certainly did it, as playing with the Metal Blade throughout the entire game is definitely a lot of fun. It just makes it so that the other weapons become severely underutilized. Like, how many times have you ever used Quick Man's weapon outside of boss fights? Same with Woodman's weapon, it's practically useless. But I do find it hilarious that the Metal Blade destroys Metal Man, but the Leaf Shield fully heals Woodman. Now, all that being said, Mega Man 2 really is a solid game. One of my favorites of all time, but I just can't overlook these fundamental issues that it has, especially after seeing how they were almost entirely fixed in Mega Man 9. Perhaps the most compelling evidence that Mega Man 9 is an homage to Mega Man 2 is the complete lack of Mega Man's special moves, those being the slide and charge shot added in the games that succeeded Mega Man 2. This is the first thing that Mega Man veterans will notice when picking up Mega Man 9, and this is the first thing I think Mega Man 9 does right. Mega Man 9 is a master's thesis on how to properly create a game based around one core idea, and that is what I'll be exploring throughout this video. And that core feature is what is supposed to be the core feature of every Mega Man game: the ability to switch weapons on the fly as you acquire them. Mega Man 9 doesn't bog itself down with extra features like slides and charge shots because it simply doesn't need them. Sure, they're fun, but they take the focus away from that core gameplay concept. The level design and weapon design in Mega Man 9 are interwoven with each other in as near a perfect way that human beings are capable of doing. Every level can be beaten with the Mega Buster alone, but knowing how to use each Robot Master's weapon is where Mega Man 9 really comes into its own. Unlike previous Mega Man titles, Mega Man 2 definitely included, the sub-weapons in Mega Man 9 all have double uses outside of just being boss weaknesses. Every single one of them. From the concrete shot creating platforms you can stand on or turning lava into concrete, to the splash trident breaking through special blocks and piercing otherwise difficult to kill enemies, every weapon can be used in a clever way outside of boss battles, and oftentimes outside of combat as well, such as with the Hornet Seekers to grab out-of-reach items. Heck, the Jewel Shield is not only a big upgrade from the Leaf Shield in that it's actually a shield, but I found it to be one of the most useful weapons in the game for getting around tricky platforming sections with lots of enemies. And finding these double uses is incredibly straightforward. Mega Man 9 is difficult, incredibly so. Without the use of sub-weapons, it can be an incredibly challenging and sometimes frustrating experience, but the player is encouraged to try out new weapons and experiment. Finding new uses for secondary weapons can happen all over the game, and learning how to utilize one of your new weapons for a particularly tricky part, especially in those first Robot Master levels, can make you really rethink your routing and highly encourages repeat playthroughs to optimize your way through. And the Robot Masters themselves are also much better designed this time around, and no, I'm not talking about how cool they are. I mean, there will never be any way to top Woodman when it comes to cool. bosses this time around feel overall much more polished. There's no impossible to avoid attacks like from Airman, or unpredictable Mega Man 2 bullshit patterns like with Quickman. All Robot Master's patterns can be learned and overcome with just the Mega Buster by anyone, though, once again, experimenting with those fancy sub-weapons you have is the best way to get through the game. I particularly enjoy the fights with Concrete Man and Jewel Man. Concrete Man is a bit tricky, but he's usually my go-to first fight because I feel like I can beat him the most consistently with just the Mega Buster, and it means I get his useful platforms from the concrete shot more quickly. Jewel Man's AI is laughably simple, just running back and forth and jumping whenever you do, but even when you figured that out, beating him with the Buster alone is no easy task. Definitely a solid fight. The controls this time around are also noticeably tighter. Mega Man doesn't control poorly in the original Mega Man 2 on NES, but I found that he tends to slide all over the place when I tried to make precise movements. This sense of momentum really isn't necessary, and in fact is not present in the Genesis/Megadrive remake, though the controls in that game might be a little too stiff. I never felt worried about slipping off a platform in Mega Man 9, and all deaths always felt like they were my fault. And if you're playing either Mega Man 2 or Mega Man 9 on Switch via the Legacy Collection, Mega Man 9 has significantly less input delay than Mega Man 2. But don't think that slightly tighter controls means you can breeze through Mega Man 9, because this game is hard. Really hard. In fact, I might say it's even a little too challenging at times, depending on how you're playing it. In Mega Man 9, Mega Man 2, and a lot of other retro games like Castlevania, there's a bit of what I previously referred to as the continues conundrum. The continues conundrum is an issue that crops up with almost all challenging games that employ a life system with infinite continues. The issue is that when you lose all your lives and you continue, you have to start a level over. On a surface level, this makes a lot of sense, punishing the player for poor performance. But in games like Mega Man 2 and 9, it starts to become a bit more of an issue. For example, if I go to Metal Man stage and die twice before I can actually defeat Metal Man, then I'll be presented with a bit of a quandary upon entering the next stage. If I choose to go forward and make it more than halfway through the next stage but lose to the next boss, I will have lost all my lives immediately and be forced to play through the whole level again to get another shot at the boss. But if I purposefully die at the start and use a continue, then I'll have more chances to fight the boss when I get there. It's a bit of a clunky system that feels outdated, especially in Mega Man 9, which has so many modern upgrades to it. However, I also understand why this system is in place. In a game like Mega Man 9, you can go through the first 8 stages in any order that you want. I'm sure that the designers implemented a lives and continue system to encourage players to see the rest of the game instead of just brute forcing their way through a boss that could just be made easier by first acquiring the correct sub-weapon. However, I think this system falls apart in the latter half of the game during the Wily levels. In order to try and circumvent this issue, Mega Man 9 offers the player currency in the form of screws to purchase upgrades throughout the game. Most of these I find just remove the challenge of the incredible levels the designers meticulously crafted, so I always ended up just spending my screws on E-Tanks. But E-Tanks are a bit of a double-edged sword, since while convenient for refilling health right before a boss encounter, they can also trivialize otherwise challenging boss fights. If you abuse E-Tanks, the game can quickly devolve into a war of attrition between the player and the boss. And since game overs set you back to the beginning of the level, it feels almost necessary at times to use E-Tanks to get past some of the more difficult bosses, especially in those Wily stages. The Wily stages are actually incredibly challenging, and sometimes I just want to try and grind out the boss without having to go through a giant, incredibly challenging level after every third attempt. But with the Legacy Collection's checkpoint feature, it's possible to reload a checkpoint save right before a boss. I'm not afraid to admit that I used this in order to beat Mega Man 9. That last boss in particular is brutal, and having to go through a short level and all 8 Robot Masters every 3 fights against Wily just seems unreasonable to me. But all of this really isn't a big problem. True retro fans will probably scoff at me for using modern amenities to dance around a little old-school challenge, so to those of you who have beaten Mega Man 9 without purchasing E-Tanks or using save checkpoints, my hat is off to you. Now, I know I've been talking about this for the entire video, but I really can't overstate just how well done the level design is. Mega Man 9 is filled with brilliant level weapon co-design scenarios. From the lava beams that have to be turned to concrete in the first Wily stage, to these tricky jumps that can be made more easily with a concrete platform or a boost from the tornado shot, to areas that are made much more easily navigable when using the Jewel Shield, such as in these narrow corridors in Wily 3. Seriously, the Jewel Shield is like my favorite weapon in this game. And the slow introduction to new challenges has never been more well done than it is in Mega Man 9. Take those elephants from Concrete Man stage for instance. The first one gives you a ladder to allow you to safely observe the patterns of the elephant without any risk to the player. Then, later on, we have to get past another elephant, but this time with the added challenge of now avoiding the dangerous pits on either side of the player. This kind of teaching moment is everywhere throughout Mega Man 9, but is done in a way that feels natural to the level's progression and not like a tutorial. I tried to find examples of this in Mega Man 2, and it exists, such as with the first few death lasers in Quick Man stage, but it really isn't present nearly as much as it is in Mega Man 9. Mega Man 9 is the proper way to make a sequel. Mega Man 9 is to Mega Man 2 what Castlevania Belmont's Revenge is to Castlevania Adventure. Both sequels take concepts originally introduced in the first and not only expand upon the good aspects, but fix what was broken the first time around. And that, my friends, is how Mega Man 9 improves upon the gameplay ideas created in Mega Man 2. But darn it, I'm not finished! Mega Man 9 isn't just a technically polished game, it also has an attention to detail in its presentation that isn't matched by any other game in the series. From the cute intro and between level cutscenes, one of which features a cameo from Street Fighter's Chun-Li, to the tiny particle effects on Mega Man when he gets too close to the lava pillars. There were so many little details I noticed throughout playing this game again that I couldn't help but fall in love with it once more. And I haven't even mentioned the music. Mega Man 9 houses some of the greatest and, in my opinion, the best music found in the entire Mega Man series. Nowadays, if I listen to a track from Mega Man 9 even once, it'll be stuck in my head for a week. The only place where I think Mega Man 2 truly outdoes Mega Man 9 in the sound department is with the Robot Master battle themes. Mega Man 2's just has more weight to it. The Robot Master battle theme in Mega Man 9 feels a little empty. Perhaps this allows the player to focus in more on the combat rather than the music, but I think it's done better in Mega Man 2 for sure. And Mega Man 9 is a much more dense game as well, due mostly to its challenge. Mega Man 9 will never be a game that I can pick up and beat in one sitting. Not for me. Each level is so dense with challenge that I honestly get exhausted from playing it, but I mean this in a good way. It's a game that I want to see through to the end, but it's not one that I'm gonna feel like I have to plow through in a day. I can take my time with Mega Man 9. Go through it slowly and take a walk down memory lane trying to remember boss patterns and level designs each time I replay it. When Mega Man 9 first came out, I remember seeing articles online talking about what game deserves the Mega Man 9 treatment, and I think this type of idea is problematic. I didn't grow up with the Mega Man games, and when I played them for the first time it wasn't the NES versions, it was the Megadrive remakes. The art style and sound design of Mega Man 9 does nothing for me in terms of nostalgia. Mega Man 9 isn't good because it invokes a feeling of nostalgia simply due to its art style and sound design. Mega Man 9 is good because it's a damn well-designed game. The designers clearly put an immense amount of effort into making sure that every level, every weapon, every enemy, and every boss had a purpose. Nothing in Mega Man 9 feels like filler. Everything fits together so perfectly and with such meaning that it elevates the game beyond just a classic. Giving a series the Mega Man 9 treatment isn't something that should be taken lightly. It takes an incredible amount of talent and hard work to pull off something as great as Mega Man 9. And that hard work is why we still talk about Mega Man 9 today. I'm Bofner, and thanks for watching. See ya!